All right, let's just get right into it. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something really cool. We're peeling back the layers on the massive AI boom we are all living through right now to uncover the hidden economic realities underneath. There is a whole fascinating world operating beneath the shiny AI tools we use every single day, and we're going to dig into it. $602 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That is the projected 2026 capital expenditure for hyperscalers. You know, the absolute giants like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta. I wanted to hit you with this number right out of the gate because it really captures the sheer, staggering scale of the infrastructure needed to keep this whole AI revolution humming along. It's almost literally too big to wrap your head around. So, here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We're going to cover 1. The unseen substrate, 2. The circular spending loop, 3. The geographic bottleneck, 4. The regulatory audit, and finally, 5. The sovereign wealth shift. Let's hit it.
Part 1, the unseen substrate.
Now, you might look at the AI lab landscape right now and think, wow, it's incredibly crowded and competitive. But underneath, it's a modern oligopoly. We're talking about the big 3 cloud providers, AWS holding 30%, Azure at 25%, and Google Cloud with 13%. Combined, these 3 control roughly 68% of the entire global compute market. Here's the really crucial point. These companies are spending money like utility companies or massive pipeline operators, not like your traditional tech platforms. I mean, individual capital expenditure for the Big 4 is over $100 billion each. That makes up somewhere between 45 to 57% of their entire revenue. But the real kicker, the fact that absolutely changes everything, is that frontier AI labs, places like Anthropic and OpenAI, they don't actually own their compute. They are structurally completely dependent on renting it from these giants. So, what we have on the surface is kind of an illusion. It looks like a super competitive AI market with 6 or more major Western AI labs battling it out. But the deep reality? 3 dominant cloud providers completely control the underlying substrate. It is a massive, highly concentrated industrial dependency hiding in plain sight. Moving on to part 2, the circular spending loop. Okay, so circular spending. This is the specific term regulators over at the FTC are now using for what's essentially an open secret in the industry. It describes this fascinating structural pattern where cloud providers invest billions of dollars into AI labs, and then in return, those exact same labs commit to spending that money right back on the provider's cloud infrastructure. So the dollars just sort of cycle through the financial statements of both companies without ever truly leaving the closed loop. Wild, right? Let's actually walk through exactly how this works step by step. Step 1. A cloud provider makes a massive investment in an AI lab. Think Azure putting $13 billion into OpenAI, or AWS putting $8 billion into Anthropic. Step 2. The AI lab then commits to buying cloud compute from that same provider. And step 3. The funds cycle right back as inflated cloud revenue. You see, these huge investments are largely handed over as compute credits, not actual cash, which naturally artificially pumps up the revenue lines on both sides. Unsurprisingly, regulators are taking a really hard look at this loop, and they've zeroed in on 3 core concerns. First up is market foreclosure, meaning this setup gives the cloud providers preferential or even exclusive access to the absolute best models. Second, capital allocation distortion. This thoroughly confuses public markets because the financial statements don't accurately reflect the underlying cash flow. And third, structural switching costs. This setup basically locks these labs in, making it virtually impossible for them to easily pack up and migrate to a better or cheaper cloud provider. All right, part 3, the geographic bottleneck. 41.5%. That is a staggering figure. According to early 2026 data, that's the portion of global AWS traffic handled by one single physical region. Just one. It's known as US East 1, and it's sitting right there in Northern Virginia. Think about what that actually means. We don't just have company concentration, where market share is tightly gripped by 3 mega corporations. We have intense geographic concentration. The top 3 US AWS regions handle 66.8% of global traffic. If there's a localized power grid issue, or even a regional regulatory action in just one of these areas, it would instantly cascade across the entire global AI economy. The source material sums this up perfectly, noting the concentration risk has migrated from websites go down to the substrate of the AI economy goes down. That really drives home the existential fragility of this geographic bottleneck for the entire modern tech sector. We're not talking about Netflix buffering for a few minutes anymore. We are talking about the core engine of the new economy just pausing. Which brings us to part 4, the regulatory audit. Right now, there are 3 converging regulatory tracks running simultaneous structural audits on these closed loops. Over in the US, the FTC has an active investigation going with an 18 to 36-month timeline. Over in the EU, the Digital Markets Act is rolling out gatekeeper designations within the next 6 to 12 months. And in the UK, the Competition and Markets Authority is running a cloud market investigation set for 12 to 24 months. When you stack those up, it's a compounding wave of pressure building across the globe. So what are we actually looking at by 2028? The research impartially lays out 3 realistic scenarios here. Scenario A, which has a 60% probability, involves behavioral consent decrees. That basically means strict constraints on exclusivity and self-preferencing. Scenario B has a 30% probability, and that's operational separation between the AI investments and the cloud operations. And finally, Scenario C, sitting at just a 10% probability, is a severe structural remedy or forced breakups. So while full breakups aren't the most likely outcome, major behavioral changes and constraints, those are highly probable. Now, to be totally clear, we're not talking about some apocalyptic scenario for the tech giants. This regulatory pressure isn't going to destroy the hyperscalers, but it is absolutely going to severely compress the massive valuation premium they currently command as exclusive AI infrastructure platforms. It's essentially a structural repricing of their competitive moats. And finally, part 5, the sovereign wealth shift. It really helps to look at historical analogies here. Think about big tobacco between 2010 and 2014, or EU banks from 2014 to 2018. In both of those cases, their earnings persisted, sure, but concurrent regulations slowly, methodically squeeze their valuation multiples. Sovereign wealth funds operate exactly like this. They are slow, they are large, and they are highly consensus-driven, moving massive amounts of capital incrementally as that regulatory pressure stacks up. So you've got to ask, where is that smart money going right now? Massive institutional allocators are already quietly shifting billions to dilute their company's specific concentration risks. They're pouring money into 3 main areas. 1, specialized AI infrastructure, like CoreWeave and Lambda. 2, sovereign cloud alternatives over in Europe, like Mistral Compute. And 3, non-hyperscaler chip suppliers, companies like Broadcom and TSMC. Ultimately, this Substrate audit directly dictates which AI labs are going to thrive by 2028 based on their cloud dependencies. Take Anthropic. They are deeply tied to AWS and custom Trainium chips. OpenAI is technically multi-cloud, but still very reliant on those circular spending structures we talked about earlier. Google DeepMind faces potential operational unbundling under those EU rules. But independent labs, they actually stand to benefit from all this because flexible capital will float to them instead of getting locked up in a single hyperscaler. If there is one absolutely crucial takeaway from all this research, it's this. 3 companies own the substrate. That fact is real and is being priced. The major financial players out there, they aren't waiting around for the hammer to drop. They are already adapting to this deep physical reality today. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. Are you still pricing the pre-2024 narrative? The underlying mechanics of the whole AI boom are shifting completely beneath our feet. I really hope this explainer helps you see the true foundation of this incredible industry. Keep asking the tough questions and always remember to look at the substrate. Catch you next time.